My background, I have a PhD in cybersecurity. Basically, it was information technology, but focused in cybersecurity. Before that PhD, I was in the Marine Corps. So I was enlisted in the Marine Corps, wanted to go enlisted. Anyone that knows about the Marines, you kind of know the type of personality. That's me. So a little bit out there, a little bit loud. Oh, which is why I don't think I need the mic, but I'll use it. Oh, so, uh, long story short, PhD cybersecurity. Worked in many federal jobs as well as being a Marine. I was a senior scientist at the Naval Research Laboratory. I also worked in consulting companies, focusing on again the federal side. Larger companies like Booz Allen Hamilton, I focused on just general AI approaches as well as cybersecurity solutions as well. So that's why I'm here to doing the moderation. Um, Aside from all those things, I currently work at a Series A, but about to be Series B startup called AI Squared, where I focused on again on the federal side, but also do some commercial side. But our whole job there is just to make AI easy for everyone, especially the human element side with really robust feedback mechanism. But my other job is I'm the professor at UC Berkeley. So I teach, yes, go Bears, absolutely. But I teach in two programs at UC Berkeley. I teach in the Master's in Data Science program, MIDS, and I also teach in the Master in Cybersecurity program, where I do machine learning teaching there. But in the Master's in Data Science program, I had this one student who was the head of privacy at WhatsApp and was a two-time founder. And my class is about teaching engineers how to talk to their major stakeholders, like, the CEOs, the head of privacy and WhatsApp or, those type of roles. So when she introduced herself, I said, we need to talk. I said, why are you in my class? So one thing led to another. She mentioned to me that she was leading a startup event for Microsoft, AI startup event for Microsoft, and asked if I had, any minority friends that could participate. Because again, when Mala says underrepresented, she's talking about all groups, right? Like whether it's race, whether it's men, women, just having a seat at the table, which I really appreciated. I said, well, the founder and CEO of my company is a minority. She was like, well, is he I said, oh, he's coming. It's Microsoft event. And it's in Silicon Valley. I said he's coming. So it took a little bit of arm pulling on my end, finally convinced him to come. So we were here. He did a great job. We met this company, engineers, and at the event, and I get a call an hour after he spoke, after he met with this company, and basically he told me, "I'm going to buy this company." We're like, what are you talking about? Just like it's the perfect complementary company. They're acting like they might want to sell. They didn't say they wanted to sell, but I'm gonna make them want to sell. And literally, like a week later, we bought the company. So that was at one of these events. So when Marla says magic happens at these events, she really means it. So one more round of applause. Thank you, Bob. Now let's have an introduction of our esteemed panel. And I'm gonna let you all kind of introduce yourself. I've been talking too much.
Sure. Thank you so much. It's fun. All right. So I'm Shri. I'm a senior privacy engineer at Google. So a little bit about my journey. I have a master's in cybersecurity. I started off with an undergrad in computer science, and then I I was doing SAP ABAP programming, which is like nowhere related to what I was studying in the sense. And I'm like, okay, let's get over all of this. Let's do cybersecurity because that's what I was interested in. And after a couple of cryptography courses and all that, and then I started off my career in the US doing incident response, and I swore to myself, I'm never going to do this again. This is not my cup of tea. And then I then moved into PwC. I was doing, cybersecurity consulting for a while. And I said, this is also not my cup of tea. Let's do something different. So I moved to a product company. I was hired to do both security and privacy at Autodesk. But turns out I I was a first privacy engineer. And I joined at the time when GDPR came to effect. So I did privacy impact assessments for 150 products of Autodesk, and that's what, and that's how I broke into privacy, all by accident, because I was hoping I would do security, and then I eventually became a privacy engineer there, and then one led to another, and I took up this role at Google, and there was incident response, privacy incident response, something that I was absolutely not interested at one point, but I thought, okay, how bad can it get? Let's give it another try. And here I am 5 years later doing privacy incident response at Google. Same old thing, not moved teams or anything. But what keeps me excited about my job is it gets challenging every day. You see new threats, you see new issues. But yeah, I'm a professional firefighter. That's what I do. Good evening, everyone. My name is Padman Desahi. So I started my journey after completing my master's long back, 2002 or 3. I started working for a company, AmeriQuest Mortgage. I don't know if anybody here knows. That was one of the largest subprime lender at some point. They went bankrupt. So, long story. Uh, I started then later on in Wells Fargo Bank. I led their online payments platform, uh, led their online banking, bill pay systems, fraud detection applications. And then I wanted to do something different, because banks are, slow on the technology adoption. So I had my Amazon account, way earlier when it just came up, but I didn't know what to do. So I found this company, NextLab. They were doing rights and attribute access management. So that I found, okay, this is amazing. So I stayed there for a year and a half. We built a private hybrid cloud for various Fortune 100 customers, SAP, Siemens, Apple, Boeing. That was a great learning experience. And one of my friends was working at STEM. Was a energy storage company. So they were monetizing, on deploying large scale batteries and with the IoT devices to understand how the customers are leveraging energy. So we were doing predictive analytics, understanding, how's the weather, how much energy will be used at a given time and frame. So we're doing demand response. There are various other programs, so we can virtually aggregate this energy in different locations and dispatch it back to the grid. Stayed there for a number of years. We went, Series B to IPO, and then did number of mergers, acquisitions along the way. Then I got a opportunity to come in as a CI and a CISO for a company called Plus Power. They were doing the same thing. Uh, since recently, I've been doing some advisory and consulting work for helping some of the companies, startups, and enterprises build their security programs and also cloud infrastructure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my name is Ankit Naik. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Talosane. What we are primarily building is a product to help cybersecurity teams adopt AI faster and help them to automate a lot of laborious workflows that they have. So pretty early stage. Uh, Most recently, I was with a company called Coupa Software. I don't know how many people know Coupa Software. So I was with Coupa Software for 12 years. Started with them when they were 25% startup. First interest and security hire. Pretty much took them from a garage to AWS and was there for 12 years. Led that function to them going public and becoming a 3,000 plus person. Um, Prior to that, did a services startup with a few friends. We used to be down the road running HP.com. No idea why they gave a bunch of 20-year-olds keys to the kingdom to HP.com. That was a lot of fun. And before that, I was with another startup, which was a company was a startup in called Polis in cybersecurity when Polis was a 60% startup. Uh, so just startup. And before that, I met a dear friend of mine for Purdue side since everyone's throwing around school names, school boilers. So I was at Purdue. I met a good friend here after a long time, 15 years or so. Um, did my master's in computer science there, and that's where I fell in love with cybersecurity. Went for networking, ended up working at I don't know how many people are familiar with Gene Spafford and the CDS Security Center at Purdue, but I was there, and that's why I fell in love with cybersecurity. And That's what I've been doing for 25 years. So that's my story.
All right, that's great.
Wow, goodness, great.
So as you can see, we have a group of experts here. So there is going to be a little time at the end for you all to ask questions. So just keep that in mind. And by the way, one of my PhD board members was from Purdue. So definitely a great program. But go Bears. All right. So this first question is for everyone. Okay. In your opinion, what is the best use case of AI driven threat detection and why?
And I've been in cyber for a long time, and I was super excited when AI come along. And in my journey, I was doing SaaS in 2001 at Wallace, when I think the only companies out there doing SaaS was Salesforce. No one in their right head would be doing security SaaS, but it if. Uh, and then when I went to Coupa, we literally went from the garage to AWS when EC2 was in beta. They had only like two AZs running in Northern Virginia. So to me, I like to catch technology at the start. Yeah. But I'm not like the first person using it. Definitely a first fast follower. And so when AI came along, um, and I've been doing like DevOps and security for years, and there's so much crummy work there, especially in cybersecurity. If I looked at my team, I had like literally like whole headcounts. All they were doing was collecting information, analyzing information, then doing some response, then doing some reporting, and then doing some communications over and over and over again. And we did a lot of automation. I'm a software engineer, so everything I did was software first. All automation. I had a dev team, even though I was in infra and security, but never could automate a lot of the stuff. And then AI comes along, and I can say that the five things I said: information gathering, analysis, reporting, and communications. LLMs do a brilliant job at that stuff, and a lot of that as is. They do a brilliant job at that stuff. So that's kind of, for me, is like, if you look across all the cybersecurity workflows, if you look within it IR, as she said, like, so the first ones out of the gate were like the AI SOC people, right? Let's go provide it to the SOC analysts. Let's give them some AI to automate some of these things. But then you can go across the whole SDLC, like, so it started on the right, like it's shifting towards the left because they're starting to see more and more use cases, especially in application security, which is probably the youngest of the cybersecurity domains. And within that, it's the same thing. Product security, there's threat modeling. There's so many things which are just ripe for innovation using it. So to me, it's like, pick. I would pick, like, if you had to pick, and you can apply it in different places, but pick the stuff that hits one of these four things. It's good.
Yeah, I think like Sanket mentioned, it gives a lot of firepower for the SOC and IR. But I think the thing which I'm really excited about the speed and scale, which is applicable across the board. So traditionally, majority of the companies were just spending too much effort and cost to ingest, security event log, but they were also mindful. They don't want to incur too much cost either, right? So this capability really gives us, without losing any data, insights, and the intelligence from those events, able the processing, the scale and the agility which can could do, that really is groundbreaking. I think that really kind of gives an edge. And same time, adoption, with the newer technologies, the cloud-based systems which are available right now, you rather than waiting for months or weeks, you are just, within a few hours, you can integrate with the third party technologies, giving you the capabilities. So those are the things I think really makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I'd also agree. Like having worked firsthand, I am working in the incident response space. There's a lot of mundane things you do every day, and definitely automation is something that, as Muna said earlier, we I've personally been working on some cases where we can leverage AI for our response to really cut down the amount of time we put into um, like triaging and like really differentiating an event versus an incident. Does it really rise to the level for privacy breach? Is this really a privacy issue? And so on. But I think when it comes to security, things are at least a little bit more black and white. When it comes to privacy, it's a little bit more gray. So, for instance, let's say I build a threat detection system to look for consent failures, or I have an automated policy auditing system where I have a bunch of policies and I write a bunch of rules, and then it basically checks against it to see, oh, here are all your privacy issues in this system. So, these were not capabilities that existed in the past. At least we did not really explore that much automation. So, LLMs, I think, definitely give way for such opportunities. There's still a lot more we can do for sure in this space, and every day we're just constantly exploring to just iterate on that.
All right. For this question, we're going to stay with three, though, right? Okay. Now, you all talked about good use cases. One thing that we talk about, and you probably all have heard it, I know there's a lot of cybersecurity SMEs here, but data is king. When we're talking about AI, data is always king, right? However, some data is and should be protected and could violate the owner's privacy if exposed. In order to create the very best AI based, the very best, right? Um, AI based threat detection tools, you need to use all the data, at least all the data that's available. Oh, so however, you can create a slightly above average AI detection tool without using the privacy data. So, Sri, with your current knowledge and experience, what would you do? In other words, what is your perspective? Of course, speaking on behalf of yourself. Remember, she's speaking on behalf of herself, not Google,
Yes.
not Google. And we can't go into details about how it's done. But speaking on behalf of yourself, what would you do as far as using privacy data in a detection tool to protect end users?
Yeah. Your tool is only going to be as good as your data. We all know that. Um, so there is this concept of donated data. So users can actually sign up to use their data for like research purposes. It's like a pretty open concept, and even Google does it. Um, so basically, you create a golden data set out of when I say golden data set, something that accounts for like multiple, um, like um, use cases, and like it like limited bias, and so that is what comprises of like this data set. And you also have this option of using synthetic data. You can always make sure like you have this whole thing covered for whichever use case that you're building this model for. I would definitely do donated data and synthetic data. That way you're not really relying on the user data. There's no real reason to use user data when you have the option to, fabricate this data, like, get it as close to um, user data. I think when users consent to donating their data, we, like you consent, that you basically receive consent from them, you store it in a separate system, and, you have all your checks and balances there, and then you use that data. Can
Gotcha. So don't use it against their will,
Yes,
basically.
exactly.
But that is the best of both worlds. Okay, thank you for that. All right, the next question is for Parminder. Sorry. With your extensive expertise in cloud computing, and in particular moving companies from their on-prem legacy networks to cloud-based networks, what are the challenges involved in implementing an AI threat detection system? Other than computer resources, is a cloud-based system superior to an on-prem system?
Yeah, definitely. I think we must have all experienced in some way or the form, if you were on the on-premise and now adopting cloud or cloud native as well. So the challenges which I see from the cloud perspective, or the model accuracy, the regulatory compliance, data integrity could be the issue. On premises, you definitely have the ability to put a lot of constraints, controls around it. But overall, given the flexibility and the elasticity, scalability, the threat intelligence, sharing from other resources is much easier comparative to the on-premise system. So I think there is again, if you do it right, it all needs to be customized to your use cases. There will be use cases where doing things, machine learning or predictive analytics, if you're humming those systems 24/7, might be okay with it on premise, but you probably have to go with a hybrid approach. So you leverage all the elasticity, scalability, and the grid rate feature of updating the models and adopting the latest and greatest of the new technologies from the cloud.
Yeah, like, can I add to that? Absolutely. Yeah. So what we are seeing is, and again, I came from the on-prem world at HP, and then I went to AWS, and I went from waiting for 6 months for the Superdome to show up, and then being told it's gonna take 3 more months because trade comes first, and they're like, come here, and really I can spin up a server, and then I can shut it down, and I can spin it up again. So I think we have been on this cloud journey for 10 years, but with AI, I feel like we're kind of back to the early days of cloud. Everyone's really spooked with, again, putting their data with a third party. And so that's kind of what we hear a lot. So some people have made the peace and said, okay, we're gonna use OpenAI on Azure, and we have all the contractual commitments. Be okay with this. But there's a lot of other people are not comfortable with this, so they do want to run their own Llama, Mistral, whatever it is, in-house on-prem. So on-prem's back in the big game. Uh, and then the in-between is if you're with Amazon and there's Bedrock and you're comfortable with running some models on Bedrock. So that's kind of what we're saying is the gamut of those things. And then of course, if um I always had this philosophy on use cases. There's some use cases when I was doing infrastructure that I wanted people to do as much as possible and not worry about the cost. And those were things like testing and log analysis. Then I feel the same thing about AI, that at some point of time, you gotta have your own GPU cluster, even if it's like NVIDIA 5040s, but that you can play with, that you can training on, and you're not watching the code. Right. So it's a mix of things. It's kind of everyone needs to study color.
Yeah, very interesting. I know in my company, we kind of have the same situation where we end up setting up like virtual clusters to kind of have like the best worlds. Then until that customer is ready to be moved into a full cloud implementation, I do see it moving a little faster, and I do a lot of U.S. federal government deployments just because of fear of missing out. Right, I think people understand AI is here to stay, so that's an interesting perspective. Great, great, great. Okay, I do have a follow up question for you, Sankat. Well, not follow up; it's more of a separate question. But being that you are an executive, right, in the cybersecurity space, how has generative AI disruption changed your day job? Um, More specifically, many cybersecurity professionals I've spoken to believe that most of our solutions kind of still depend on an age-old tenant. The age-old tenants, such as basic access controls, monitoring, and a vulnerability evaluation and a remediation plan. Do you believe this is largely the case, or have you seen a major shift in any particular situation?
That's a great question. And what we see again is like, I'm more in the startup founder mode, but then I work with a lot of customers, so I get like a front row seat to what companies at different levels are doing. And I think Gartner explained it best. I saw the presentation recently, and they said, look at things which are low complexity, low experience, and then look at things which are high complexity, high experience. And those are the places where you want to you get the best bang for the buck for on AI. So that's why when it the low complexity, low experience use cases, for example, are analysts, right? That's why the first movement was towards, okay, you have all these analysts in the security operations center. Let's increase their productivity. So give them the co-pilots so that they can go faster. And now you're seeing this transition to the high complexity, high experience stuff, which is you have this security reviewer, we have the security architect, and let's give them all that information that they need so that these high expensive resources can be productive and do more work. So it's uh, a mix of both things. And the other thing I see across is it depends on the it's kind of a classic Jeffrey Moore crossing the chasm kind of situation right now, which is I there's the early adopters, like you said, there's this fear of missing out, and they're moving fast and they're trying to find the opportunities to go to this stuff. But then you also have the laggards who are like, okay, we're just gonna wait for this thing to shake out and figure out, and it usually matches up with industries. So the laggard industries on tech are waiting and watching, but interestingly, with AI, there is a horizontal going through all of it. Say, even though healthcare typically lags with a lot of technology and option, still, at least in areas like customer support, they're moving forward on it. Yes. So that's kind of what I'm saying.
And there are a few interesting questions here. I kind of like this one. So, as scientists and engineers, most of the circles I've been involved in focus on protecting consumers from nefarious or bad actors that want to cause harm. In my day jobs, this has not always been the case. So, there's things that we should do and things that maybe we shouldn't do. And sometimes our stakeholders want us to do things that we should not do. Um, so, again, we're speaking for ourselves and without naming anyone or the country specifically, how can we, as responsible scientists and engineers, hold to a standard of protecting others, even when our stakeholders want us to cause harm? So hopefully everyone can answer that, but if you don't feel comfortable, I'll understand. Anybody want to tackle that first?
I think it's all our responsibility as a collective, society and community that our commitment to the organization or the company we're working for is doing the best, right? Okay, striving what we are uh, brought in to do. At the same time, also have the mental morale, the we. I think majority of all of you must have seen one video or other about AI ethics. Everybody has different opinions around it. Uh, how does it, impact the daily life, the privacy of, young adults, children, right? You must have seen some of the social media events where horrific things happen to the young adults. So if we don't collectively do our part to, whether it's through our organization or our community, broader, our broader network, that it is basically chipping away or incremental progress, right? So we don't have the ability in certain cases or the influence, but as long as if our mindset and we have a that kind of objective or goal towards it, we can achieve it. But again, as Napoleon mentioned, is it's a tricky thing, right? Because your organization, they are, if you're a part of the startup VCs, right? It's all about profitability, making, sales, marketing, right? So, I think at the end of the day, we have to introspect, reflect on our journey, where we were, how are we progressing, what are we, giving back to our, children in the future. So it's a collective effort, I would say. Thank you.
I'll let you think a little bit further.
Here.
Um, so I've actually been only seeing bad things in my role. Right. That's another weird part about incident response. You see only bad things. You don't really see the good side of it. So sometimes there are situations where you need to explain, hey, there's revenue impact, but we need to do the right thing for the user. And I understand, like, this the reputational harm and all that. You probably notify this customer so many times about the same issue. But for XYZ regulation, obligation, whatever contractual obligations, we need to do this. So sometimes it's important as employees to take that stance, push back and say, I don't think this is the right thing. So of course, your mouth will be shut in some way. other avenues and like by different people above you. But I think as Parvinder mentioned, you have that social responsibility. Your 9 to 5 is okay, like you're working for the company, you receive like a paycheck from them and all of that, but you have a broader responsibility. And with I've mentioned this in a few other talks of mine actually with LLMs, like, and with AI and the rise of AI. The one thing that I really, really fear, especially after becoming a parent now since the past 1 year, it's about what kind of environment are you creating for your children? Like it is so dangerous out there. Like, and this is not control. It's like Wi-Fi at this point. Yeah. So there are not as many guardrails. So with the rise of like, I mean, deepfakes have always been there, but social media is just a whole. There's a lot of garbage over there, and it's so easy to be exploited. So we all have a lot of social, and a lot of companies have the responsibility to actually make this a lot more safer and um responsible governance. I would say people talk a lot about AI governance and all of that, but really there needs to be a lot of action in this. And some of these things also needs to come from above. Like when I say top down, it also means from the government. Right. So, um, so I really think those are few key things that I can point out here.
Oh, I love it. This is exactly what I was hoping. Yes, sink in.
Yeah, the way I would think about it, I think we already have a lot of frameworks in place. Yeah, it is a huge technology shift. It's not something that we expected to happen so fast. It's very useful, it's pervasive, and I don't think we can put a genie back in the bottle. I think they tried at the start and it didn't work out. So I think important. I'm huge fans of AI safety teams, and I think yeah, they're doing what every one of us needs to make sure that these general purpose LLMs are safe for everyone to use. I think that he should really continue to heavily invest in safety, AI safety, because we cannot stop people from using it. I generally I don't know how many people followed the whole DeepSeek R1 stuff, right? It was fun. Like yeah, everyone was working on the weekend. And I think a lot of people for the first time knew what Onama was, right? Everyone was downloading Olama and installing the model for the first time to see what it did. So I would say generally it went down a good path. Uh, how it developed over weeks. So it came out, and I think it just changed the economics. I think the main thing is it changed the whole economics of AI. Right, a lot of things that people were dismissing and saying, "Hey, this is not gonna happen." I mean, I talked to some pretty smart people who were talking about how things are going to change. And for me, I was not able to make a connection, and this happens, and it's like, wow, okay, it's like something somehow everything is more accessible. But at the same time, it had a lot of safety issues, right? DeepSeek R1, and I think the community in general is going about it in a way saying, okay, great, it's open source. Some other ways for rates and biases are open source. Training data, okay, we still don't know what this wasn't trained on. And so what people are going and Hugging Face and others is we are going to build this model, but with safe data. We're going to follow the techniques in the white paper. We're going to use the weights and biases, and we're going to build this uh, with training data. And so we get all the benefits of DeepSeek R1, but with knowing that it's safe. Right, and I think the whole community, Hugging Face and others, so to me, it's like that. To me, I'm an optimist. So to me, it's like okay, these kinds of things will happen. It's a revolutionary technology. I mean, it's a great time to be alive as a technologist. But these things are going to happen, and I feel as a community, we have a lot of people who will come together, and the bad actors will be bad actors. Opportunists will be opportunists. But I think generally, I feel positive or the community, the institutions, the frameworks coming together to do the right.
Yes, I love that. Thank you. Thank you all for your responses on that. And just to give you a little bit of insight where I kind of came up with that question. One of the things I loved while I was a PhD student, I started an international chapter of something called the Honeynet Alliance. I don't know if I had a friend that I thought he was coming. from that alliance, now CISO as Google Cloud, who does great work, by the way. Google Cloud, they publish a lot of really good material to help you kind of secure your networks, especially the cloud environment. But it was international. It was people from literally all over the world that kind of came together to kind of say, you know what? There are so many bad actors out there. We all kind of want good things to happen. So, that span across different values, different ethic, sources. But generally, I think to your point, I'm monogamous as well. I think most people, we're good guys, right? So when you have those stakeholders who want to do bad things, you kind of have to take control of that narrative and say most people want good things, and we're a company that needs to sell this software. You have to build that narrative. Like if this gets out that we're doing this, we're gonna lose revenue because you have to tie it back to money some kind of way. So again, I kind of want to give you all the context of that. All right, thank you all again. I think we still have a few minutes, so we have a few questions from the audience. Anyone have any questions for our panelists?
This is a more general question about what you see the future for AI, and I'm specifically curious about not like a separate model like Llama or ChatGPT, but like a specialized, like by industry or specific task, individual from the bottom, from the top to the bottom, AI models in the future. Do you see them and where? Like when? And maybe in specific areas, industries or focus on specific tasks. What are your thoughts? It can be anything that you can cover.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Sleep, we were pretty excited when it came out because I think in the week prior, conceptually, we were talking about okay, building cybersecurity within cyber, and again, I was hoping I could go to the full talk without saying agent. I am sorry, but yeah, it's a big because I mean, and that when I'm coming from, I think Silicon Valley is just flooded with the agent narrative. But when you're a practitioner, you see all the problems with that. It's when you have a stochastic system and then you put multiple stochastic systems together. Yeah. But I'm optimist that sometime point of time we'll figure that out. But the ability to do multi-agent where initially you had to keep going back to this big model. Now you can have like the example that I gave, like within cybersecurity, you maybe you're doing a review, right? So you're doing a security review. Who do you have in a security review? You have a developer, you have a perhaps a security champion in the dev team. You have a application security reviewer. It could be a level one, level two. You could have a infrastructure security reviewer, level two. You could have a GRC reviewer. And the problem with a lot of the LLMs right now, I said LLMs can be used as is the problems, but then you apply a lot of AI techniques to get it to 95% good, which is what a human reviewer would do. And most of those techniques are kind of get over the overtraining of the initial prompt, right? For people who are working with it. So to me, it's like, okay, now we can actually train models for every one of these things.
So we can skip agent phase. We need to go through full optimization and then skip like go to the full.
There's ways to do either, but what I'm saying is that we could have just special purpose models for special purpose skills. For security, the example I gave you for this one use case, you could have 6 different agents trained on 6 different skills. That's an example, and I think you can apply it for like, I don't know. Do you guys want to?
Yeah, quickly, I think as Sanket pointed out, it has to be workflow driven or use cases driven. So we have to think it through, where it's applicable. So there could be, opportunities where you have, manufacturing, specific or supply chain, regulatory compliance, right? Because those are very defining, problems. So there are opportunities where they can be further customized, be more pointed to the workflows issues. Thank you.
Wonderful. So big round of applause for our faculty. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.